So greetings, welcome everybody to our August meeting of the North End Neighbourhood Council. Many of you did the tree walk and we really appreciated the Tacoma Tree Foundation for arranging that for us. For those of you that participated, I know that I learned a whole bunch of stuff and no doubt everybody did. So we lost most of the people who were on the tree walk, so next year we'll have to work out some better way of lassoing people into the meeting. However, to start off, first announcement, can I call up Nasukin? Come up. Those of you that arrived, you may have seen somebody setting up a little informational table, and Nasukin is going to explain what it is that she's doing and why she's doing it. So,
hi everyone, my name is Nasukin Kondo. I was working with the Tacoma Tree Center this past month, and for my final project that I was doing, I decided to do a community outreach project for cancer awareness and cancer education. Because during my time with Tacoma, I learned that people are sick of cancer, and I wanted to do my project to get more information about it out there and help ways to get more cancer screenings and mammograms that I want to do today.
So you have a table, an informational table out there, so if any of you are interested in what Nasukin is trying to do, you know, you can go out and grab her. You'll be here for another 45 minutes or so out sitting outside?
Yes, I'll be out there when you go there, I'll be out there.
Okay. That's the incentive not to run too late. Any questions for Nasukin? Okay, well, thank you for doing that. So, we'll jump right into our liaison reports. We've got 3 people from the police department. So you're going to come up and speak, or are you going to draw straws? How are we going to do it? You only have one microphone. So that.
Good evening, Officer Brazil, Tacoma Police Department. I'm sure most of you in the room know who I am. I'm one of your community liaison officers. I'm here in just about every meeting. This is Officer Siska. I'll give him a chance to introduce himself here shortly. He is my temporary partner for the rest of the year, helping me out in CLO world, so super happy to have him. A couple things real quick. Don't have a ton of updates. It's summertime still for about another month until school goes back. It's been super busy. We've been running a ton of emphasis throughout the city, specifically the ones in the north end, along Ruston Way, Titlow Beach, the boat launch, a couple of other hotspot areas that we've identified. And so we've been running those pretty frequently. DUI emphasis continues throughout the summer. Street racing emphasis continues throughout the summer. Those are all things I've touched on in the past. But all of that's kind of going, plus all the community events that we've got going on. Tacoma's amazing for summer and all of the events that we have. So we're going to continue that. Tomorrow's National Night Out, so hopefully all of your guys' neighborhoods registered, and if you did, you'll see our faces. We're going to make an appearance at hopefully every neighborhood in the north end that registered for National Night Out. So it's always a fun night, and we try to get out and visit everybody. Kind of it for the updates that I have tonight. I'll let Officer Siska tell you a little bit about himself. Like I said, you'll see probably both of us at a lot of these meetings for the rest of the year. Before I do that, does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So there's this new app out that says how much crime is around and what triggers it. And but it labels the crime, but it doesn't say in a location, but it doesn't go into any further detail. Where do we find out the stats, like what happened last month or whatever as far as crime?
Are you talking about the crime dashboard on the Tacoma website or the Tacoma Police website? Or is it something outside of the police department? Do you know?
It looked like outside.
Okay, so I'm not familiar with the app that you're speaking of, but you can get up-to-date crime stats on the Tacoma Police website. We have a crime dashboard, and it's very, very easy to navigate. You can filter it all kinds of ways, by crime, by location, by proximity of an area, and it won't give you every crime just because there's some that we protect, against like sexual assaults and things like that. But it will give you a good idea of what happened, and you can go back. I believe it's up to 5 years. Is that right, Barry? 2000. Okay, 2008. So, but you can query information and you can filter information, and that would probably be the best bet because that comes straight from us in our crime analysis unit. But yeah, if you visit tacomapolice.org or Tacoma Police website, you can Google it. It's the very first thing that pops up is the crime dashboard, and you can kind of play around with it. There's instructions on how to use it there as well, and it makes it super easy. And then you can kind of see what the stats are and what crime happened in your area over the last month, the last weekend, the last 24 hours, etc. Yes, sir.
I was just going to say, it took me a long time to figure this out, but actually, every week at the study session by the manager's report, there's a written update on those statistics. So if you like to pay for it, just every Tuesday, go to the manager's report on the study session, and voila.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. I don't attend the study sessions, so I did not know that. That's awesome.
It took me years to figure this out.
Any other questions for me real quick? And I'll let Officer Siska introduce himself if not. No? Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Officer Suska. Did 5 years with Seattle Police before I came here, and I'm working on year 3 right now in Tacoma. Great place. It was a really good opportunity for me to come into CLO land while Officer Wallen is in training unit for the next couple months. There's a lot to do, a lot of emails, a lot of follow-ups, a lot of good communication with people, and lots of happy faces I see, so that's a good sign. But Officer Brazil said, any questions for us before we hand the mic off to the next person? All right.
See you guys next month.
Can we get the fire department up on the screen? So Josh, we're just getting you up on the screen. You are there. And can we hear him? I'm going to get you unmuted.
All right, everybody hear me?
Okay, looks like you're unmuted, Josh. Fire away.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Perfect.
All right. Well, hey, I'm going to share my screen. I know they already mentioned National Night Out, but just realized that we are going to be out as well. Tell me if you guys can see my screen. All right. Well, hey, first off, I just want to say I hope all of you are enjoying your summer. Sorry I was unable to make it last month. I was busy with some family vacations. In fact, I just came back from one today where I'd be present in person, but instead of online. But I'm happy to still be here online. And like I said, National Night Out, just a little history about National Night Out as well, because I had to look it up myself. 1984, Philadelphia, and it was just a way to kind of do community building campaign, and then it kind of spread across the nation. And so it's a great event. I know each year our crews are out there attending different barbecues and around all over the city of Tacoma. Our administrative staff, including myself, will be out as well, and I usually try to hit as many of them as I can. And so I'm going to be busy tomorrow night just running around trying to say hi to everybody. So if you guys see me, please say hello. And then as far as, let's see here, why my slide won't change, but let's give this a try. All right, did that change now, the slide, or no? Nope. Doesn't look like it's changing. Which slide do you guys have? Do you guys have the National Night Out slide?
Slide that we're looking at.
Tell you what, I'm going to exit out of here real quick because I don't want to take up the whole evening. And I'm going to share just one other screen and we'll call it good. How about that? Because this one's definitely working. It won't be as big, but it'll still be pretty large. There we go. You guys able to see that?
There it's up. It's up.
That'll work.
That's
This one I can at least change between the slides. I don't know why it won't let me change, but Hey, I'm proud to say that the North End call volume is actually down for last month in July, down about 15%. So that's pretty awesome to see. That means that we're out there and we're being safe and nobody's getting hurt and injured. So I always like to see that. So something else to think about. We got brush fire season is here. We had definitely a hot July and we're looking at a hot August. When it comes to brush fire season, I always break it down as there's kind of two ways that we can kind of protect ourselves out there. One of those ways is on the road. So if you are driving your vehicle and you like to go out in the country and stuff like that, try to stay off the grass. Those hot exhausts as well as catalytic converter can start grass fires. Also, if you're an individual who does towing, be thinking about those tow chains. Those they spark if they're hanging down too low, and they actually cause a significant number of fires. So just something to think about, and it's always a safe idea to carry a fire extinguisher in your vehicle if you can. So, and then let's talk about at the home a little bit. So I always think about, like, especially if you guys have a porch that's kind of above ground, like a deck and stuff like that. Make sure you're clearing any vegetation that's underneath there and not storing any firewood or anything. And if you do have firewood, try to store that a little ways away. Keep your grass short as well. That's one of those things that can definitely help save you a little bit. So just some tips for around the home to keep you safe and keep fires away. And then somebody had asked me in June if there was a physical location for Bloodworks Northwest in Tacoma. I'm sad to tell you there is not. The closest one is actually going to be in Federal Way, and so I put the address up there as well at 1414 South 24th, or through 24th rather. And I only mention that because and I know I have told the North End Neighborhood Council before that Tacoma Fire is now administering whole blood for those individuals that need it, medical and trauma. We've given, I believe it's 52 administrations since January 23rd, so late January is when we started the program, and so those are 52 life saves. It's pretty awesome stuff. In fact, I just gave blood July 28th. And then North End fires, or this is North End, maybe not quite. I'm trying to think if this is in your guys' jurisdiction 100% or not, but we did have a North End fire at 48th and North 11th. It was actually a detached garage fire, and probable cause, I don't want to say this 100%. There was a lot of extension cords and stuff like that, and so be careful. It's just kind of a reminder is why I put this out there. Careful how many things you connect to extension cords, and especially if you're daisy chaining them and adding multiple extension cords for that matter, and or using them as permanent wirings. It's definitely a hazard and a weak point in electrical systems and causes fires. They heat up, and so high probability. Like I said, I don't want to say 100% that's it because we don't know. A lot of fires are actually undetermined. We do the best we can, but you just never know. So, anyways, that's about all I have. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Any questions for Josh? You're out of free, Josh. Thank you very much for joining us, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet.
Let's see if we've round of applause. Let me see if you've got John Gaines on the. I don't see John this month, so we'll probably see him next month. Tacoma Parks, I got a message from Alyssa, who's our regular liaison, that she could not come this month. However, she is always very conscientious, so she's following up on questions from previous months. The North Slope Historic Park, that's in our North End neighborhood area. They're going to be replacing the playground equipment, and they've been working with the community on their preferences, which apparently are nature-based wooden play structure, including toddler-friendly and inclusive play. And they're working through the bid process, and hopefully we'll have that up and running in September 2026. The next item that she's mentioned, not in our area, but adjacent to our area, is the Wright Park playground repair. And I know that they are moving ahead with that. There was some budget issues, and I know they worked in getting some money reassessed. So hopefully that will be up and running in fall 2025. And then the last point, on one of my walks, I'd come across some tires in one of the parks that somebody had dumped them there. And we had a discussion online about how you report stuff in the parks because they're not part of that 311 system. So Actually, Alyssa gave me a contact person to reach out to if you've got any park issues that can be reached out to. But I also am aware that they, if you do report stuff in the parks through the 311 system, that also gets passed through to the Parks Department. It's just not part of that database for following up. So we've got people from the parks. Anything further on? They just love coming to our meetings. So thank you, parks. We do love our parks and really appreciate all they do. And going back to the agenda. Christina, is you up next?
Our city manager is here too.
Yes, Christina. Christina, you're up.
You guys here. And I will definitely take the opportunity to introduce my boss and the interim city manager, Jen Kim. I just have one quick item to mention tonight. I know this group in particular is especially interested in the historic preservation program in the city. So I wanted to make sure that you're all aware that the Tacoma Planning Commission is going to be holding a public hearing on proposed changes. Will happen on the 6th, August 6th. And so you can provide comment in person or virtually. You can also submit written comments to planning@tacoma.gov. So there's more information on the website, www.tacoma.gov. If you're interested. Thank you.
Any questions for Christina? Would you like to just come up and introduce yourself? That'd be great. Put you on the spot.
Sure, put me on the spot. Yeah.
And thank you, Christina.
I'm so sorry I'm late. My name is Hyun Kim. I'm the interim city manager for our council here in Tacoma. I've been with the city for about 2 years, a little over 2 years. And so, yeah, by way of where I come from, just by way of background, this is not a stump speech. As a staffer working for the council here, I was working for the city of Gillette in Wyoming. Before that, I was the city manager in Fife. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And so, yeah, I'd love to answer any questions from a staff perspective. I know that we have a number of our CLOs as well as I have other staff members, my colleagues here in the room as well. Any questions I can answer for this neighborhood council for the North End?
You said your first name was Sean?
It's hard to pronounce. I'll help you with this. My wife, April, tells me this is how I should pronounce it because I say it really fast. Most folks can pronounce Yun, Y-U-N, just add an H, Hyun.
Okay.
Yeah. Or my middle name is James. But I don't go by Big Jim. Yeah, so.
Hi, Young.
Yeah, perfect. And I've worked in Wyoming, Nevada, Washington State. Anyone that commits to saying my name, it's hard to pronounce. So I really, really appreciate that. So yeah.
So, I'll say it the right way. What is keeping you up at night? Like, is there anything right now that you really are putting all out?
You know, that's a great question. I would say, there's the things that are from a staff perspective and serving our council here. I think the steady state that is Tacoma, I have come to find in my 2 years working for the council and working for the previous city manager, Tacoma does a little bit of everything, right? And that's a wonderful thing from a standpoint of expectations. And council is having that deliberative process of continually talking about prioritization. There's the things that are not as sexy from a staff perspective that I deeply want to support the council on, which is the steady state that has to do with our infrastructure. The things that are like, I don't know about you all, when I come to a,
Sorry about that.
no problem. When I visit a city, there's just basic things like curb and gutter, like, taking a look at the striping, you're like, wow. I don't think anyone looks at that from the standpoint of like maybe other than if you work for a municipality or run a city like our council. Those are the kind of basic things that the council is desperately having conversations about. How do we get back to that? It both keeps me up and it excites me. Is that kind of a strange thing to think about?
Like where you are.
Yeah. Okay, now this is, I apologize. I did not tell anyone I was coming. I just showed up. So yeah, please. Yes.
All right, tonight's major subject is street. And for I don't know how many years, he has not been able to find a way to fund the programs that are necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a staff perspective, we execute on what your council is asking us to execute on. And I can tell you emphatically, not just for council members Rumba and Hines here, they have made that a top priority at this time. And so finding that prioritization in terms of working on canopy, depaving, putting more trees, I think that's a shared goal by the whole community. It's just finding those opportunities. And I know that Mike in the back, from an environmental services standpoint, they're talking about, and they're actually going to be moving forward with what council has laid out for our urban forestry program. So just re-emphasizing what we're doing now and doing it better, and then also taking a look at from the standpoint of returning that value to you all as patrons, residents, and visitors to Tacoma. I think everyone's a resident here, so.
Another question.
Yeah, I keep reading that the city run out of money or cutting money for shelter programs. Particularly, I'm familiar with one down on Hilltop. So it's lost the funding. I don't know whatever happened to them, but I know money's tight. Nobody's got any. The feds are taking it away. But what kind of alternatives are we looking at to how?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just from a baseline standpoint, you've heard this from the council, you've heard this from the city. During the beginning of the pandemic, when everything kind of shut down, with the dollars that rolled from what was CARES and then turned into ARPA, a lot of those funds were used from a one-time perspective to provide transitional as well as emergent needs for sheltering, all those things. Those funds were one-time in nature, and the city council has prioritized for at least the last 3 years of continuing to fund shelter services. I think the solution that I'm hearing from our council, and interesting, my two bosses are sitting right here as I'm saying this. I think the solution that they're talking about is regionalization from the standpoint of what can we do with our neighbors. That the city of Tacoma we're the epicenter from the standpoint of providing services. Providing 80% of the beds for all of Pierce County. It's not about fairness. It's not about unfairness. It's about let's have a conversation, and they are having that conversation with Pierce County and our neighboring jurisdictions. And I'm looking forward to how we can regionalize and support. Tacoma's always been willing. I think to the question of Tacoma's always been willing to help out our most downtrodden and our most vulnerable members of our population, our residents here, even new residents that are coming here for services from that standpoint. So how can we do this together? That's probably the solution. If we look up north from the standpoint of, is it a money problem? Is it a housing first problem? I think it's all those things, all those conversations, and I'm looking forward to what council sets for us, not just in this season, but next year as well. It's going to be a challenge and an opportunity for collaboration, perhaps. Yeah.
Let's give a big round of applause. All of you, because the reason that we get impromptu visits from people like the city manager and the parks president is because they know that the people who are interested are part of this group. So thank you very much for all of you for coming. So next up is Sarah.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. How many of you went on the tree tour? What are you talking about? Most of them are in this room. That's incredible. It was just really exciting to see how much enthusiasm there is in this room, and I hope that we can take this enthusiasm to everyone else in our city, because there are a disenfranchised part of our city, and they're not able to come to meetings like this. So I really appreciate everyone in this room and what you mean to our community. I just wanted to give a couple updates. One of the things I wanted to talk about was, you just mentioned homelessness, and there was a question about it. We actually are having a conversation at the next meeting about homelessness, and I'll be here with Pierce County Council Member Robin Denson, and we'll be talking about homelessness. And I am on the Unified Regional Approach for Homelessness, and I really do agree with him that the regional approach is what we need to be working on, because we just don't have enough resources to do everything. And for me, it's been probably the most upsetting thing to be on council and know that we weren't able to get the money we wanted to get from the state to do more of what we are doing. And so to have to cut services was really, for me, painful. The most painful one was the one on Pacific, which is across from South 791, 35th and Pacific. That was a great example of a program that worked really well. It was low barrier. It had a tent cart for some people who were in that stage of getting off the street, and then it also had tiny homes. And it just did so much, and the neighborhood was supportive of it. So one thing I know that we do well is these advisory councils where we get the neighborhood involved in whatever we set up for a tiny home village. And it's been a really successful model, and I think other cities, I think that the county, now that they're rezoned to do tiny homes, is going to be looking at our example. And so I just want you to know that while it was upsetting, at the same time, it's an opportunity for the county council to take this up and to build tiny villages and to create these advisory councils and see the good work that we can do as a community to help people who are struggling at different points in their lives. On South 911, we are in the process right now of looking for a new executive for South 911, and everyone in this room, I'm sure at some point in your life, you may or have called 911, and you want to be able to call 911 and get somebody, right? So it's really important that we have a good leader for that, and I think that we have someone, I think that we're going to be bringing to the rest of the board, and I think that you will be happy when you find out who it is. I'm looking forward to that person taking over. And that's one of the most important things I do is serve on South 911, because I think being able to get a hold of somebody when you're having an emergency and somebody getting there in time, really important. And I think that the people here, like the police and our fire, we care so much about our community. And I want you to be able to reach somebody. Okay, so those are the two things I'm going to talk about. I'm going to let Councilmember Hines come up here because he's like my dog and pony show. So it's your turn now.
Round of applause for Sarah. Not dressed in my normal uniform today, so I hope everybody's all right with that. It is summertime. Speaking of dog and pony show, I did want to highlight that pet license fees are going to be going up here shortly. Christina, when are they going up? September, correct? Yeah, so pet license fees are going up. That's just part of a broader overhaul I did on the animal control ordinance that we launched back in July. Legalized pigs. Actually met the first legal pig in Tacoma down in the South End a couple weeks ago. Pigs, changed things around dogs, cats. But one of the things we did do is we raised license fees, mostly for the express purpose of trying to generate more funding to pay for spay and neuter programs. Right? Because one of the challenges we really have is there's just too many animals that are going uncared for in our community. So the idea is by kind of doing some small adjustments to the license fees, we're able to generate revenue to help offset costs and get more animals spayed and neutered in the community. One thing I was very happy about is we expanded the number of people who are able to get exemptions, low-income exemptions. Before it was just seniors, only just 65 that got exemptions, and we now expanded to anyone who gets bill credit assistance for public utilities can also get low-cost licenses. So the goal of moving the passed this back in June. The reason we're not increasing fees in September was hoping that people go out and license their animals. You haven't licensed your animals, dogs, cats, pigs now, please go out and do so. The other update that Christina wanted me to make sure I mentioned, if you're a regular reader of my newsletter, you probably knew this, but we adopted our climate action plan update here back in June, with really just trying to focus more on mitigation of impacts of kind of climate, right? So really looking at ways that we are not going to really be able to bend much of the curve on climate change around here, what we can do just with the city alone, but how can we do things that kind of impact people's lives. Yes, so planting trees, electrification. Councilman and I were just down at the Port of Tacoma today at the Husky terminal because they now are fully electric powered. So when the boats come in, instead of running their big diesel generators for the entire time they sit ashore, they actually can plug straight into our co-power. It's pretty crazy. It said that in 5 hours, the ships consume as much electricity as you do in your house in 1 year, and that by plugging in and not running these generators the time they're here, it's basically something like taking 500 trucks off the road for a year. So just huge impacts on just the amount of diesel particulates in our air, and also they're using clean power. So that was really exciting. The other thing, homelessness comes from about, and already kind of took that. That was kind of a deep dive I did on my newsletter. One thing I will say is we did open Kingfisher Village, which is a new village down on 84th and Hosmer, 60 units, and it's part of the state right-of-way initiative. So that is going to be helping people who are currently living on the rights of way, so the highway, I-5, 509, Highway 7, 705, and getting them into shelter and housing. So that is funded for 2 years. And again, we're doing the best we can to cobble together the funding we have, the 6 Orchard site, Bethlehem Baptist Family Shelter, and one more. And the rescue mission, well, we got funded from the county for initial year, so we've got another year of funding for 6 Orchard staying a little longer. And then the rescue mission is opening their men's shelter, saying so 100 more beds permanent that are coming. So kind of, it's a real top of mind issue for lots of us, right? Because we see homelessness kind of throughout our community, but there's lots of things happening right now that hopefully can help us bend the curve on that, along with the conversation President Obama said, which is how do we get more of it, more of the region stepping in and helping us with some of that conversation. Because, you know, we have kind of faced our undue. We've shouldered most of the burden here in Tacoma. I think, there you go, John. All right. And I think those were the updates I wanted to share here tonight. I don't think there's anything else. Public hearing on historical districts tomorrow at council. So if that's something you're interested in, please come in and share your thoughts. If you cannot come to the council meeting and provide comment, please submit them in writing to the city clerk by 5 p.m. tomorrow. Those all go on the record. Move forward from there. Those are the big ones. Questions? Yeah. 1 and 2.
Just to keep it on, Jody and I were talking just a minute ago. She just got back from 4 countries in Europe. I got back from 3. And we never saw any garbage. She'll throw it out the time. I know it's close to Sarah's park as well. But we came back from SeaTac and I mean, again, I'm like repulsed. I can't even understand what's going on.
So
it's a dumping ground here.
It is. There's that. I think that's some of the trash comes from one of my passion projects. So I'd like to see. Yeah. Well, I'd like to see more of the trash. I will just like to do something else that's going on right now is we have a litter tax in the state of Washington that was passed on paper products back in 1970. The number hasn't changed since 1970. It's still the same number. So basically, every paper product you buy, pack of cigarettes, things that normally end up like being littered, there's a tax on them that are paid by the producers. That was passed in 1970, and it hasn't changed since. So right now, Ecology is taking comment on that to make some changes because what they found is in 1970, I was not alive in 1970, but for those of you that were, like more things were consumed in glass and paper than today. And so the tax has been applied to plastic right now because plastic wasn't as common back in the 70s. But now most of the things that are ending up on the street are plastic. So Ecology is doing rulemaking processes to try to reconfigure the tax in order to pay for that. So that's something we can be doing if we have some more funding, and that would help state, the litter on the streets or on the highways, and also hopefully have some spillover effects to us.
Are you saying once they're finished with that, just a confirmation, they will maybe relook at it and we can use money? I know Sarah looked into it, and they only come once a year or something.
Yeah. The state has identified they have a gap of like, I want to say like $2 million a year, like what it would cost to pick up the trash and what they're able to collect with the litter tax. And so
We have 2 people that clean up between.
and we have 2 people clean up between Olympia and Seattle.
Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely a source of lives in the part of the country driving around and stuff. I'm like, highways have no litter on them. So okay, it's all from yeah. Oh, and then sorry, Joe. Sorry, I didn't come from.
I was just recently in Tanzania, and several years ago, the president of Tanzania said was driving along the highway, he noticed all these plastic bags. And he issued a good executive order and said there shall be no more plastic bags given away or sold in the country of Tanzania. Drive down the roads in Tanzania, there are no plastic bag bales and trees and all that. Regular bags have plastic bags. 2, I'm reminded, oddly enough, of a Walt Disney movie where there's this apprentice to a sorcerer who's doing something and all of a sudden he makes the well that's continue to flow with water. Is that where we are homeless? The more we house, the more come?
I mean, that is, It's true. I mean, it's a real challenge, and I'll level with you folks. I mean, one of the challenges we have in Tacoma is the jail is in Tacoma, and the hospitals are in Tacoma, and Western State is just outside. So we're gonna always have people here. The end goal is some of the housing and some of the support housing we're having will help us bend the curve. But I mean, I think we are going, when you talk to the county about this idea of functional zero, like they're not talking about ending homelessness, they're actually basically just getting to the point of you show up, we get you someplace quickly. But yeah, I mean, if you ask what keeps me up at night, that is what keeps me up at night right there, which is like, is this something where it's going to always be a challenge, or will we be able to bend the curve over time? So, yeah. So.
Did you remind people to vote?
Oh yeah, I was going to avoid saying that. No, please. I will say is, I can say you can vote. I can say you should vote. I'm a recovering high school civics teacher, and I will tell you one thing I used to tell my students is just remember, in the United States, only half of Americans vote, and of them, half of them only vote once every 4 years. So if you say your vote matters, it does matter. So make sure you vote by Tuesday, tomorrow at 8 p.m. And you can, right here, we are very blessed. You can go to the mailbox, or you can slip it in the ballot box, either at the Wheelock Library or at the one on 26th Candle. I have heard people tell me, hey, Councilor, like, it's unfair that you have 2 ballot boxes in your council district, those close. And I said, well, the answer is, the Candle Park ballot box was the most heavily utilized ballot box in the entire county. And so when they were looking to put an additional one in here, they put it at the Wheelock because that was there's so many people voting in this area. So, very proud of you. Make sure you vote by Tuesday. Thank you.
Yes, following up on that, if you read that article this week, it said that District 1 was the highest percentage of voters. District 2 was the second.
We just waited until yesterday.
So congratulations again. We get John. So John Gaines came on late, but he may have something. John, they're just getting you pulled up on the screen. Got anything to report to us? Yeah, John, we're just getting you on.
Awesome. Hi, Peter. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're on, and we can hear you, I think.
Awesome. Well, great to be here. I had another meeting, and I'm still in the office.
Okay, can you keep the noise down in the back of the room? We're trying to get John remotely.
Okay. Can you hear me? Am I good?
You're good.
Awesome. I had another meeting, a virtual meeting, but I'm still in my office. But I wanted to just call in. I know, Peter, we communicated over email about having a presentation sometime later this year, early next year, in regards to power operations. And so I did talk to one of the power directors, and I am working on figuring out what topics he would like to cover and address. And then it'll be good to hear from you all on just what topics you would like. So if you wanted to just send me an email with some additional updates, I'm meeting with him at the end of this week. So if you wanted to send an email before Friday, that'd be great. But looking forward to scheduling that email. Another update I wanted to share, the new water superintendent started. And I've been sharing this. I've shared this, I think, once before here, but just wanted to let you all know I am going to work on scheduling her on a tour as she is kind of getting acclimated with her role. But there's a News Tribune article, Peter, that I can send in regards to some of her experience. So she started late or early last month. And then the last update I wanted to share, we're working on a current community newsletter that I will I sent out a draft of that this evening, but I will continue to send out those newsletters to the community. As always, just wanted to be here to kind of listen in as you all meet and let you all know that I'm always available and here and responsive to any concerns or questions you might have.
Any questions for John? Thermal power? Oh yes, we have one question. Go ahead.
First question is, what is the name of the new water superintendent?
Did you hear the question? The question was the name of the new
Yep.
warden.
Carrie Brouchard.
Brouchard.
Yes.
And any other questions for John? Yeah, one last one.
Second question is, how can I get a phone call back from you? I answered an email and told you I needed a phone call back.
Yep. So is your name B?
Yeah, yes.
Bia, yep. Bia, I can give you a call. I'm working with our team from water quality as well. I'm trying to get them on a three-way. And so as soon as I'll follow with them in the morning, but we wanted to call you on three-way so I can get your answers to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you, John, and we'll see you next month. So
Thank you.
that being said, while we're set up for our next presentation, I just would, under the announcements, I should have made the comment, we're always looking for people who are interested in joining the board. We have had a few people leave over the time, so we have some open positions. The way we normally work that is we invite people who are interested to come to a board meeting, which we have every other month, and sort of see what the board's about. So if any of you are interested, please just reach out to me or any other board member. That being said, I'd like to introduce Dr. Lowell Weiss, who is going to give the presentation on behalf of the Tacoma Tree Foundation. So this has become an annual event, so thank you, Lowell.
Evening, everybody. Great to be here. I think this is my third or fourth year in a row presenting at the August meeting and talking about trees. So thanks to all that joined us for our tree walk beforehand. We were with Dr. Romy Haverly, who is a local professor and very knowledgeable about many things trees. Just to introduce myself, I've got some slides coming up here in a minute, but I'm executive director of Tacoma Tree Foundation. We are your local tree nonprofit, and we're in our 7th year now as a nonprofit here based in downtown Tacoma, and we do a variety of things related to raising awareness about the urban forest. And if you haven't thought about what the urban forest means, it essentially refers to all the trees and plants out there that are part of our ecosystem that helps to keep the earth healthy and keep ourselves as humans healthy. So we are, very excited to be doing what we do and growing trees and community. That's one of the ways that we talk about our work. So what that means for me is we do a lot of work that is about giving trees directly to residents to plant. And so we have resources available for you if you're interested in planting a tree. We often have free trees to give away. There's lots of things to consider, but a lot of that involves relationship building, and so that's the community side. So what you get with Tacoma Tree Foundation in your life is that you have someone you can talk to if you have an issue that comes up related to trees on your property. Especially if you're considering planting, we're more expert on that side, but we're also connected to folks that know about keeping existing trees healthy, and that's a really important part of what it all means for all of us to take care of the urban forest. I've got my colleague Mike Carey here who's going to talk in a little bit, I think, and Mike's with the City of Tacoma Urban Forestry. So what you're going to hear from me is kind of what we do at the Tree Foundation and how, maybe part of how that's different from what the city does. So there's going to be a lot of questions that you have that you may be interested in about regulation and so on, and I would say that'll be more for Mike to take care of. But I'll talk about what we do and what our unique role is. So here's a picture of our current team, or many of us. A lot of us are tree huggers, so we just thought we'd take a photo hugging a tree. And as I said, we do our work here in the greater Tacoma area, and we focus mostly on neighborhoods that need trees the most. And what that means is some neighborhoods have fewer trees than others for all kinds of reasons. And those neighborhoods are often the ones that also have lower incomes, greater ethnic and racial diversity. And so that whole thing we talk about as tree equity. So thinking about the fairness of where environmental resources are located and how that impacts people's lives. So we know that trees have many benefits, and one of the benefits is joy. This is a photo of a child planting a tree with us at a recent event. And it's really contagious, that feeling of doing something positive for the community, getting your hands dirty, working with neighbors. And a lot of that's what we're trying to do at the Tree Foundation in partnership with the city of Tacoma and other local jurisdictions. Part of our role is just to get people involved. And from my perspective, it's not enough for just governments and jurisdictions to say, hey, we're trying to do this. We really help regular folks get involved and have an avenue to make positive change in our community. So that's a big part of what we do. And we know that trees have all these benefits. There are some listed on these posters here in the back. We know that they provide shade and cooling, obviously, habitat for birds, animals, and so on. But there are also direct benefits to our physical health and our mental health that we can't take for granted as humans living in the city. So just imagine a city that doesn't have any trees, and you can imagine what that would look like, what it would feel like, and the contrast to a beautiful neighborhood like this, where you've got access to a green space year-round. It's really, really different. So for me, this is a question of design, like urban design. How can we fit trees? Where do they belong? Where do they not belong? And so it's a big question if we are managers of our property as individuals, and also we're managers and stewards of public property. Are the local jurisdictions doing what they need to be doing to make sure that we have a healthy forest around us? So it's a very complex issue, and there's people that work on this on all sides of the issue. Lots of folks in government who set policy, lots of folks in government who are getting their hands dirty and taking care of park spaces and steep slope gulches and all kinds of tricky spots that we have in the community. And then there's you and I, who maybe own property, and we make choices about what kind of plants we have at our house. And we can think too about the public benefits of those plants. So here's a map from a resource called the Tree Equity Score. And this shows the Tacoma urban area. And what it's trying to get at is that issue of how the presence of trees relates to race and income. And anywhere across this country, because of our history, because of our environment, all kinds of things, there are areas that have lower tree canopy coverage, and those areas tend to have lower resources in other ways too. So on this particular map, greenest spots, if you kind of know where the point defiance is, you can see that's a big green spot on the map, so that's great. And a spot like downtown Tacoma, where I live, is pretty orange, and that means it has more work to do. But you can imagine downtown Tacoma has lots of tricks or challenges for fitting trees in. We have pavement, we have buildings, we have highways. And so you can just look at this map and get an indication of where that nexus is between trees and equity. So I encourage you to check this out. It's from treeequityscore.org. But the city of Tacoma also has a really wonderful community forestry map that shows very similar data using the city's equity index and the tree canopy data that they have. So I recommend that one too. I'm going to keep my talk, I think, pretty short tonight, but I wanted to emphasize that we're constantly doing educational walks like the one that just happened before this meeting. And we love getting out into neighborhoods and highlighting the beautiful trees that we have here in Tacoma, because we think that when more people are aware of trees and the amazing benefits they have and the challenges that there are to keep trees healthy and happy in an urban setting, we think that more people will get involved, more people will advocate for better resources at the city level or anywhere you live where there are people making decisions about trees. And so the education side of what we do is extremely important. And we have different levels of detail, like introductory, just kind of celebrating trees. And then we also have more in-depth workshops about how to take care of trees and how to talk to your neighbors as well. Because talking to your neighbors is one of the best things you can do when it comes to trees. I had some trees cut down in my neighborhood this week, and I really wish, in retrospect, that I had talked to my neighbor first and tell them how much I valued those trees before they brought chainsaws. So the other thing we do is plant, and this is one of our big planting projects. I think this is from the Hilltop neighborhood from this spring. But you can see a bunch of new trees, and you can see that there's different infrastructure to take care of a new tree that goes in the ground. You need to stake it so it doesn't fall over. You need to put a watering bag on it. So in the summer, basically for 6 months of the year when it's not raining here, we need to be watering our new trees. And that's a big commitment, big responsibility. But when we work together and we remind each other of the importance of trees, we can do it. We've grown so much in the past 5 years that last year we were able to distribute over 5,000 trees to community members. We're really proud of that and the relationship building that goes along with that. This is a photo from a recent walk that we did in South Tacoma at Wapato Hills Park, and we are emphasizing the connection between urban forests and climate change. So the climate's changing. We already know that. It has impacts on existing trees, and it also impacts maybe the choices we make about which trees to plant, so that we're thinking ahead to the future climate and certain trees being more tolerant or resistant to drought especially. We try to have a lot of fun as we do our work as well. This is a photo of Jayla from our team and Lisa from the city's urban forestry team. This is our electric truck. It doesn't have an engine, so that's why you can sit in the front where the engine's supposed to go. But yeah, we're just excited to be doing the work that we do and the relationships that we get to build with people along the way. One highlight of this year was when we partnered with the North End Neighborhood Council. And we did a project together that involved mapping the North End and what we call the plantable space area along the street in the North End. And we also worked with volunteers to do a training and sent folks out on a Saturday. We kind of made the home base near the farmer's market on a Saturday. And for a few hours, some volunteers headed out to talk to neighbors about the importance of trees. And the fact that there are different programs no matter where you live. We have a resource, a flyer in the back. We call it the Community Greening Flyer. It's a list of 8 different programs that you might have access to depending on where you live in the Tacoma area, from partners like the Conservation District and Pierce County and City of Tacoma and Tacoma Tree Foundation. So we wanted to share this message with North End. On this particular day, we talked about the tree coupon program, which is a discount for someone that goes and purchases a tree at a local nursery. And that's a great way if you have a particular tree in mind, you can apply for a tree coupon and get a little discount on that purchase. So here's a little bit of the map, and I think I talked about this at a meeting a few months ago, but we're really proud of this work. We brought the map, or Jody brought the map for us tonight. So if you want to take a look at this later, what you'll get to see is every block in the North End neighborhood and how we categorized it according to how easy it might be to put trees in that particular spot. So if it's got pavement or compacted gravel, it gets a limited planting space rating. And if there's power lines overhead and things like that, maybe it's a moderate planting space, or maybe your planting area is not very wide. But then we see these that have the optimal planting space rating. And that just means that in general, on that block, there's no power lines. It's a pretty wide planting space. That's a great spot for trees. So if you're someone that really wants to advocate for more trees in your neighborhood, you can take a look at this map and use it as a resource to think about which blocks you can focus on. There's another map up here too that has to do with tree canopy coverage in all neighborhoods in Tacoma. And it shows that there are many parts of the north end that do not have very many trees. And what I'll emphasize about our map that we put together, this just talks about street trees. This is the right-of-way only. There are many, many opportunities in people's yards, in backyards, in front yards, and side yards, where trees would be very appropriate, depending on utilities and all kinds of different factors. But thank you again to the North End Neighborhood Council for this opportunity. Since we put this map together, we have done a similar project in Hilltop and mapped all of Hilltop for plantable space. And we're looking forward to doing more neighborhoods in the future. And this work was funded by a City of Tacoma Sustainability Small Grant. So we're very grateful for that program too. So those are the main things I wanted to highlight. There's a picture of me and my dog, just for fun. But you can find us at Tacoma Tree Foundation on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. You can email us at this info@tacomatreefoundation.org address, and we'd love to chat with you more. We'd love to see you at an event coming up. If you go on the website, tacomatreefoundation.org, you'll see our calendar. And we actually have 3 different events in August where we're doing educational walks all around town. And those are mentioned here in the agenda for tonight's council meeting too. So I'm gonna leave it there. And I think, Mike, if you're planning to come talk, maybe I'll pass over and we could do joint Q&A, if you're up for that. I don't know, Peter, you're in charge.
Go ahead. Introduce Mike.
Sure, I'll introduce my friend and colleague, Mike Carey. Mike's the urban forester for the city of Tacoma, and we partner on a lot of these programs, and we're often in meetings together, so thanks for being here.
Hi everyone, Mike Carey, your friendly urban forester here with the city. We're actually a very privileged community, I will say, in that we have both a nonprofit partner and general government as well, partnering together for urban forestry related stuff. Can you hear me all right, by the way?
Close to you now.
The smoke is kind of messing with my allergies, so. But anyway, so we happen to have an urban forestry program here at the city that's relatively robust, considering if you look around to other neighbors around the area. A lot of other communities don't have that same privilege. And so I just wanted to name that. I also want to name that because of folks like yourselves doing a lot of local advocacy, our city council is very in tune with the community's desire to do more tree stuff. And so there's a whole lot of new projects coming online, new policies being set, new regulations being considered, all about trees, in part because we have a really strong interest in our community, which is pretty cool. I did not take cute dog photos, so I'm calling that out. I also did not prepare a formal presentation. I just was asked to give a couple updates about things that are happening in the space of urban forestry right now at the city. So some of you might know that City Council recently passed an urban forestry resolution, we'll call it, which it's a multi-phased approach at looking at things like setting new policies and regulations around trees and development, or tree protections, or tree planting requirements globally across the city for all land uses. I spoke actually here several months ago about things that were happening during the Home in Tacoma project, where we were considering tree regulations as related to the zoning code and urban residential neighborhoods. And because of that work, now council was to take that and kind of make a more global conversation happen around all land uses across the city. So that work, we're working with a consultant right now to promote the scope for that. And then the next step is going to be some community outreach to get some thoughts around what that could look like. And then work with the consultant team, the planning commission to actually consider updating our zoning code regulations for trees, specifically looking what are our planting standards, making sure if we require trees to go in the ground, that we're giving them healthy conditions that they'll actually thrive long term. Or how do we protect trees during development? We consider them kind of assets as a community. So we're working with our communications staff right now to figure out what the communications approach will be around that. And as soon as we figure that out, we will loop back with you all so you can figure out how best to get updates and be part of that process. I will pause there. Well, actually, I won't pause there. We'll do joint Q&A here in a minute. So just if you have questions on that, marinate on it for a little bit, and we'll circle back. Another thing that I wanted to mention is, Lowell had mentioned this plantable space inventory that we did for the North End, which is a really awesome opportunity to look kind of rapidly at planting opportunity across the entire neighborhood scale. And in part because of that work, we actually had a project we've been working on in the south end of the city, and City Council recently passed funding to do the same analysis for the south end. And so we're looking at planting opportunities there as well. And that's in partnership with the recent neighborhood planning program, designating funds for planting trees in that neighborhood. So we'll do some analysis of tree planting as well. And then in addition to that, I don't know if I want to say this, not about the DNR grant, but here I am saying about the DNR grant. I actually think last time I came here and spoke with you all, we talked about this grant we were awarded through IRA funding, Inflation Reduction Act funding, channeled through the Forest Service to the Department of Natural Resources. The city of Tacoma applied with the Tacoma Tree Foundation as a partner to receive funds to do a big tree planting project we call Safe Tree Routes to School. But the intent is to use tree planting as street trees for traffic calming infrastructure in some of the major corridors where students walk to school to help them get there safely. We were the #1 rated grant in the state of Washington, which was pretty cool. And then shortly after that, we got a notification saying, because of just uncertainty with the federal administration, that we were putting the grant on pause. We might not receive those funds. However, I will say, just last week we received notice from the DNR saying, just kidding, you got the green light to move forward. So and I look at Lowell because we have all since moved on. We have, our staff are already over capacity. We've kind of leveraged their energy to other shiny things, and now we'll have to figure out how to make it work. And we will, because it matters in our community. So just, again, when we have more things to share about that, look forward to hearing more communications about this. Sorry, Lowell. And then I think the last thing that I'll probably share, and Lowell alluded to this as well, there's a fair amount of public incentive programs that are open right now. Free Trees for Your Neighborhoods program. So Grid City Trees is one of those. It's a free street tree program, eligible for anywhere in Tacoma. If you have a right-of-way that can host some street trees, you can apply for it. Another one is called Green Blocks, and every year that program is a deep dive into a specific neighborhood to plant a ton of trees. We get about, 300 trees out, street trees out through that program every year. And that is also in the south end this year, but we're trying to dance all across the city for the different neighborhoods. And then there's a fair amount of other ones too. The coupon program was mentioned. We partner with the Tree Foundation on what's called the Community Tree Program, which has a lot of educational programming, tree stewards training, all that stuff too. So we're all trees all the time. I think, were there any, oh, you know what? Jody did ask me to mention something else as well. And so there was an application put in for heritage tree designation on the Union Avenue medians, all those big, beautiful trees that are out there. And I'd like to share with you all that we reviewed the application, and in order to be nominated as an eligible heritage tree, you have to meet 2 criteria. One is the tree has to be healthy, and the other one is that the tree has to be over a specific size, which is pretty big. It's 30 inches in diameter of trunk size. And so of the application that was provided, 10 of those trees have officially been designated. They have now been added to our map on the city's website. So if you put in the search engine, City of Tacoma Heritage Tree Program, it'll bring up a fun story map, and you can take a virtual tour of all the heritage trees in Tacoma, see pictures, see them on a map, all that good stuff. So I think Jody would also ask that I acknowledge the program exists, A, and then also if you happen to have a tree that meets one of those criteria that you want to put on the nomination, feel free to do so. You can apply on that same website. There's just a simple application form. You upload a photo and the location, and then urban forestry staff review it for the criteria. Yes.
So what does that mean, that it's a heritage? Is it protected? Is it, what's the size awareness?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. It's not regulatory in that it doesn't place protections on trees. And part of that was City Council was very interested in providing more access and awareness to big trees in Tacoma that was non-punitive. So if I owned a big tree and I wanted it to be publicly recognized as a big, beautiful tree, I'd be happy to nominate it, but maybe if it became protected when I did so, I'd be less inclined to do so. And so it's just kind of a low barrier way for public tree recognition. So you asked what it does, you get put on our map, so on the city map, kind of this virtual tour of big trees, photos get uploaded, it kind of gets like a special tree status, but it's mostly just a public awareness program.
Plaque that goes up?
Not currently, but if you happen to know anybody who makes plaques and would like to start enlisting them, please feel free to do so.
What were the two criteria again?
Oh, great question. So it's a tree health criteria, so the tree has to be assessed as healthy. I mean, there's no point in designating one if it's like at a point of failure, gonna probably die next year. And then the other one is the size. So if you measure the diameter of the trunk, and it has to be 30 inches in diameter or greater. I will also invite, we will co-Q&A now, is that? Okay, cool. So both questions for Lowell and myself, we are happy to take this time.
Go ahead.
I'll let you.
Self-moderate.
Yes.
I just have a question, on the Sycamore Tree Foundation. Do you have a tree in your yard that looks like it's got a big hole in it? It looks like it's, like for example, a fruit tree, there's a lot of fruit on it, but there's a big hole. What is the person supposed to do? Well, you guys that look at it.
You can try. We currently don't have a program that offers assessments of trees. And it's something that people ask about a lot, so I love getting the question. I would love for us all to figure out as a community how we could get arborists onto people's property to assess trees of concern. We can't currently do it. So what I tell people is there's a local or a regional professional organization called the ISA. It's the International Society of Arboriculture. And they have some resources that we share on our webpage about what to look for when you're asking an arborist onto your property to look at a tree. There are some companies out there that might be looking for an opportunity to cut down a tree. And if you value the tree that you have, you might want to think about what criteria you have, right? So some things I look for are ISA certification and also discussion of tree health. So if they're thinking about the health of the tree and how to maintain it proactively, those are the kind of companies that you want to work with. They're more interested in selling you, or they're just door-to-door flying you. Maybe those are not the kind of companies.
Master gardeners are at the Proctor Farmers Market every week. And even if they can't answer your direct question, they will send it in to their office and do more of an analysis and maybe get something back. It doesn't mean they're always going to be able to answer it, but they try that.
Thanks for that. That's a great point about the master gardeners. They're local volunteers, they're highly trained, and if you take a photo of your tree issue to the farmer's market, they might be able to talk through it with you.
I could add a comment too to that. I had a neighbor who had decided to cut down a tree because of the company type of company and I arranged through the organization you're talking about for a track qualified arborist to come out and change the owner's mind about whether the tree was safe or could be saved and save the tree. It also cost $200.
Yeah, of course.
For that track qualified person to the evaluation.
And the tree removal might cost $2,000.
Right.
So there's benefit in getting that information because a mature tree on your property is an investment that you need to take care of. And so, yeah, being proactive really helps. I had a question on our tree tour right before this from someone who said, I have a really big tree on my property. What do I do? And I said, try to feel better about the fact that you have a big tree. You know, if there's no visible health issues or branches that look like they're dying, you might get an evaluation, but you also just might appreciate what it's doing for you and your property value as well.
Question for each of you. So Lowell, I've been wondering how people can get support to get their trees planted, because so many people don't have, the physicality to do that. And for you, Mike, it's a question of when is that LiDAR about showing the canopy?
Great questions. You're tuned in. Yeah, most people, let's see, we are able to offer through certain programs tree planting assistance from our volunteer network. And right now it's mostly based in those neighborhoods that have the lowest equity and lowest tree canopy. And so we don't currently have a program for the north end for tree planting assistance. So, you know, there's different ways. You can come to our workshops and learn how to take care of a tree, and we give direct guidance on how to plant trees as well. We have a YouTube channel that has information on how to plant a tree correctly. Probably the answer is working together with your neighbors and friends to figure out how to get that done. Because, yeah, there are absolutely lots of people in the community that couldn't take on just the logistics of planting a tree, but then also might not be able to take on the watering of a tree. And so you really want to work together on something.
To add to that too, we also have a relationship with the Pierce Conservation District for that Good City Tree program I mentioned, the free street tree program eligible for anybody in Oklahoma. And they provide planting assistance for that program if you request it. So on the application form itself, there's a little box to check if you need planting assistance. And they show it. And then you had asked a question about the LiDAR. Yeah. And what's funny is the last time I think I was here, I talked about LiDAR.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to share with everybody. So we have new LiDAR data. Oh, thank you. So LiDAR is light imaging detection and range. So it's basically flying an airplane or a helicopter over a city and shooting laser beams at the city. Now, you're loud about it because I can't say laser without saying cuckoo. So you shoot laser beams at the ground, and then based on how the light is reflected back into the equipment, you can tell the density of that object. So how quickly it goes back, and then how dense that beam is when it comes back, what that object is. And then you can isolate different categories like buildings, like roadways, like impermeable surfaces, and permeable surfaces like plantable space. And you can also tell tree canopy. And so we now, the last LiDAR analysis that we had done was a number of years ago, back in 2017. And at that time, we were assessed at having 20% tree canopy over the entirety of the city, which was the lowest in the 70s at the time. Now we just had this last summer a new LiDAR flown, and so we'll have brand spanking new data that is in process with the consultant team right now. And I wish we got it back just shortly, just a little bit sooner, but I'm supposed to get it back this week. Literally this week, I will have new LiDAR information on our tree canopy and other stuff as well. With that also comes an entire tree inventory of every single tree in the city. So they're able to use these really cool advanced learning algorithms now where they can isolate the tree canopy layer. They can tell how tall each of those trees are, and they can put it on a map for the trunk. And with each of those points on the map, they can tell whether it's evergreen or deciduous, whether it's healthy or sick, and then how tall it is. So it's like an incredible amount of data that I have not fully in the process of what to do with yet. We'll figure out something cool. But look for updates. Again, we'll make sure we'll be back in with the North End Neighborhood Council once we have something official to share. We'll put a press release out and a report. Yeah, it'll be coming out pretty soon. It includes any tree. So it won't say that that's a fruit tree, but that fruit tree will be counted as a tree as long as it's greater than 10 feet in height. That's the kind of cutoff between the shrub layer and the tree layer.
This is a city question. Does the city have an approach, and I'm not going to say regulation at this point, is that approach that when there is new building onto an existing property that already has mature trees on it, that before the building is actually granted a permit, that if you take down some number of, because this happened in my neighborhood, okay, took down 5 major trees, and what went up now is completely covered literally in concrete. And to the credit, they have put in, they took out some trees in the parking strip, but did replace as many, and of course, they're not mature trees, so they're going to take years to mature. So my question is that does the city have some way of working with the planning and development organization to either encourage the architect or the owner that's coming with plans that when they take down those mature trees, that they consider or have some requirement that they have to replace some percentage of the loss? because otherwise, as we build more and we put in more concrete, it is not amenable to a lot of trees, right? So we have to figure out how that balance works. And as a gardener, I lost a borrowed view that I had for many, many years because the place is gargantuan. And so as a consequence, it kind of said, well, what happens? I mean, they just took every single thing out. In fact, every plant that was on the property, not just the trees, every plant went out. So I'm just wondering, does the city, is that just one unique instance for one local community or one, or is it more profound? And we just have, I just kind of sat by and thought, well, maybe she's going to put up some new trees, but put 2 into the park district and that was it.
That's a really, really good question and point. And I'll go back to the comment I made earlier about that resolution that City Council passed where we're looking at updating those regulations.
Right.
So currently, for all land uses that are not residential land uses, trees that are located on private, non-residential property are not protected. We don't have tree regulations that say you cannot remove those trees currently. We do have things like impermeable surface thresholds, so when they put stuff back after the removal, they can't pave the entire site, for instance, right? There's certain regulations from the Department of Ecology in the city and how you have to treat the land area, including tree planting requirements. Right, there's no tree protections outside of urban residential land currently. But the resolution that I mentioned that City Council passed is really saying we actually want to look holistically at land use across the entirety of the city for all land uses, not just urban residential, and consider tree protection regulations for those as well. And so to your point, there isn't currently on the books tree regulations, but that's kind of the next charge for City Council to consider. And I would just encourage you all, if you have thoughts around that, to be involved in that process and help kind of navigate those discussions with City Council, planning development services, because you are all stakeholders in this too.
Yeah, it was really hard because that happened a couple of years ago. The process is now complete, but it was just a disaster. It was heartbreaking to see the trees. They literally came and bulldozed every single thing.
And the big thing that is being considered through all of this right now is we all recognize that trees have a benefit to the greater community more than just me as the owner of the tree, right? So there's this communal benefit being had. Not just its ecosystem services in general, right? Urban heat reduction, cleaning the air that we breathe, stormwater, all of that. And so inherently that one tree that's owned by an individual has some public benefit that's greater than that individual. The question is, how do you balance things like private property rights, like the right to do with my property what I would like to do with it, versus the that kind of public benefit that's provided, and really the requirement around providing these services for everyone. And so those are the discussions we're having right now, and hopefully that'll lead to some good regulations coming up. But again, I just encourage you to be part of that process.
I want to comment on this one as well. I was talking to someone who's deeply involved in the city of Portland, they solved this problem by a rule that says that a developer must retain the stormwater on the property where they build. And that one rule has prevented that sort of thing from happening. City of Portland.
So some context on that, the Department of Ecology, which is a state agency, requires that local communities, including the city, have stormwater regulations, right? So we have to adopt stormwater regulations that say when you develop, how do you manage the stormwater inputs on the site? So if you pave everything over, every drop of rain that goes on the ground has to go somewhere. It can't infiltrate in the soil anymore. So we have stormwater regulations in the city already that tackle a lot of those things. One thing that historically has not been used is using trees as a stormwater management practice. So historically, we'll say a lot of developments that are required to do something with their stormwater, they might take out a bunch of trees to then put back in a system, like a hard infrastructure system to manage that stormwater on site, right? And so now where the industry is going is that we're actually valuing trees as stormwater infrastructure, and now you can use those for credits. So it's part of your system. It's not something you have to remove to make way for the system, right? And so thank you for bringing that up, Tom. And that is something that we in Tacoma have considered for a while. It's been in our stormwater manual since 2012, but it's really underutilized. I think it's undervalued because it's so easy for an engineer to calculate the size of a vault or a pipe or a catch basin in a way that is harder to value a tree. But science is getting better. We're getting better regulations around it, and actually with this new permit, I'm getting really nerdy stormwater here. But with a new permit, we're now actually required to have a stormwater management program that includes trees as of August 1st of this last year.
Every permit that's in Portland requires that the developer prove that there will be no stormwater runoff.
Yeah, tell me if this is a question for another time or person, but I have several mature trees on my property, well, a few, but I have two places in my sidewalk where the whole slab of sidewalk is being raised up. If I were to have somebody come out and try to lower that, they would have to cut the tree roots that are rising it up. Will that harm the tree particularly, or does it depend on the tree?
That is a question for another time and another person.
Okay.
But what I will tell you is it all depends on, there's a lot of things that it depends on. How big the root is you have to cut, how old that tree is, how susceptible is it to decay to cut, and how much you're trying to lower the grade. And so I'll go back to the comment that Will made about tree doctors. So ISA, International Society of Arboriculture, certified arborists are that person to have that conversation with. They can come out to an assessment of the size of the existing tree, that species susceptibility to removal of roots without it being a problem, and then talk through your options with you. And sometimes it's shaving down the root, sometimes it's cutting off the roots, sometimes it's moving the sidewalk, either up and over roots or around roots. There's lots of options out there, but it's really getting a qualified person to come take a look.
That answered my question very well. Thank you.
I'll add one thing quickly, which is that in some instances, you might, if you're replacing a sidewalk, you might need to have a conversation with the planning department about whether you have to go straight through that tree root or you can go around it. There's a couple notable exceptions in town where they've allowed people to build around a large existing tree. I would love to see more flexibility for that built in, but I don't know how that process goes ahead of it. Yeah, Georgia.
We talked about this here, I think, at one of our meetings a couple months ago. And it seems to me like there's still a lot of misinformation or lack of information about the right-of-way new regulations that were put in place, like a year and a half ago. So if you could explain that a little bit more so we understand it. And then that brings me over to John's question about heritage trees. If a heritage tree is on the right-of-way, it does have some protection.
That's a very good question and point. Thank you for that. So the reference was to the right-of-way tree regulations were updated a couple of years ago. Before that, they hadn't been updated since 1927, so they were a little antiquated. But a couple of years ago, when we updated them, it really solidified what tree protection means for the right-of-way. And essentially, any tree that's located in the public right-of-way is protected. You can't just remove it willy-nilly, because it'll look at you funny or whatever the reason be. But there are certain qualifiers. And so if you want to remove a tree, you have to meet one of these qualifiers, like is it a current hazard tree? Is it a fruit tree actually is one of the qualifiers too, because some people just don't have capacity to go and clean up the fruit to keep the sidewalk clean and safe. And so that's a qualifier. There's other things too, like a conflict with construction. And so you go through this list and you figure out if the reason why you want to remove it is something that's defensible by code, it's qualified, they need to be approved to remove it. If it's not, then you can't. You can't remove that tree, it's protected. And so that's a really good point that if there is a heritage tree that's in the right of way, it's already protected. Whether it's a heritage tree or not, it's protected.
Is there anybody who hasn't had an opportunity to have a question? If not, let's perhaps bring it to an end.
One last
question. You have your question, go ahead.
The work you've done to identify plantable areas, have you at the same time determined how many trees it will take to fill up those plantable areas?
No. The city has an estimate in the urban forest management plan for how much right-of-way planting space there is. And we could probably come up with a number, but it's many thousands of trees.
Let's give a huge round of applause. We really appreciate the willingness of the Tacoma Tree Foundation and Mike's department, the city, to come and engage with us. I'd also like to give a shout out. We don't have a committee structure in NENC, but we do have champions. And our 2 tree champions are Georgette and Jody. And thank you. So they do a wonderful job. You can see a lot of their work around you, but trees are super important. And those of us who didn't understand that a few years ago, now we know. So, that being said, not too much left on the agenda. Under old business, Christina still here? Okay, we wanted to give a big positive feedback to the city council for their sponsorship of Porch Press. We were a sponsor this year, and I've heard back from all of those people who participated just got rave reviews. I guess the expansion of it beyond where it was last year was great. So hopefully the city council will be doing something similar next year. On the Bayside Trails, I've sort of been busy talking to various people at the city on that issue. Had some great conversation with city planners and all kinds of people. So there is more to come on that. Again, it's one of those topics that just came up at a meeting and sort of gets some momentum. So Cushman Adams redevelopment, we're still working. I think, again, with Christina, she's working on getting that OTAC presentation to us. I don't think we have a date yet, do we?
No, not yet.
The end of the year or beginning of next year or something? Yeah. And those of you who remember the One Tacoma Comprehensive Plan update, they had to drop out before they came and spoke to us early in the year. So even though that plan has now been approved by the City Council, they're still going to come back and give the presentation to explain what is in that. And we've scheduled that for our November meeting. So that's onto that one. With respect to new business, Christina mentioned the historic district stuff. So I know we've got some comments that we're working on to get those in. If there's no other new business, I'd just like to reiterate on what Sarah Rumbau told you earlier. Next month's meeting, the topic is homelessness, and Sarah will be bringing in people from the city, and Council Member Denson will be bringing people from the county, and we know that that's sort of an issue of great interest. So I think we'll get a big turnout of people for that. If there is no other business, I'd just like to thank you, and again, pass a huge thank you back to Tacoma Tree Foundation for that fabulous tree walk that those of us are open.